We're going to remove the head unit from this 280ZX. This is the factory head unit. Most likely reason would be to do some type of repair on or replacement on the cassette player, which is a frequently broken item. Just to a couple things before you do this, remove some items that typically get in the way. I always take out the cigarette lighter and move the shifter knob all the way back away from the radio. Also slide the driver and passenger seat all the way back just to give you a little bit more room to work. We're basically going to just need a Phillips head screwdriver. That's all you need. You might find a 10mm socket to be useful if you have some particularly tight bolts, but they all have Phillips heads. So we're going to remove the kick panels on driver passenger side, as well as a very small plastic trim piece. I'm going to show you where these screws are. They're in the same place on the driver's side and on the passenger side. So first, on the kick panel, you have one screw here, and you have another screw right here. That's all you need to remove there. And then there's also this little plastic trim piece right here. So all three of these are Phillips heads. So we'll just remove 1, 2, 3 on this side, and then we'll do the exact same thing on the passenger side. When you've pulled down the kick panel on the driver's side, you'll see that this light, which is the light that lights up whenever the doors open, is just connected by these blade connectors. You can just unplug those if you want this to drop to the ground, just so it's out of the way, and also so that you're not doing what little drain on the battery there is. I would suggest if you're going to do any wiring stuff back in your radio, of course, you should disconnect your battery altogether. Here's the passenger side. Again, very simple. Screw 1, screw 2, screw 3, just take those 3 off, drop the kick panel, and remove that piece of plastic. Once you've removed the kick panels and that little small plastic trim piece, this piece right here that used to go right there, you'll see that there are 4 bolts, and the driver's side looks exactly like this is the passenger side. And you see those 4 bolts right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those have Phillips heads that you can just go in there. And again, if your if your screws are really tight because they've been lodged in there for a long time, or if they're starting to get stripped, just switch to a 10mm socket and you'll have no problem at all taking all those out. So take out the 4 on this side, take out the 4 on the other side, then I'll show you the last thing you want to do before you actually pull the unit. All right, we've removed all 4 bolts on the driver's side and passenger side, so the whole head unit can just slide forward. I usually put like a chamois or something on here to cover the shift boot base, because the bottom edge of this radio unit has some sharpish edges, and I just don't want to scrape up that piece of plastic that I went through all the trouble of refinishing. So we're just going to grab it with both hands, and you just kind of like gently slide it forward. You will get quite a bit of play without disconnecting any wires. So I'm going to pull it out a little bit, then we'll just talk a little bit about what wires you might want to disconnect depending on what you're trying to do. All right, so the unit is pulled out right here. I haven't disconnected any wires yet. Basically, if you're just going to go after the tape deck, you don't need to disconnect the whole radio. You can leave the whole head unit just kind of like this and just undo some of these silver screws here that bracket in. And there's a bunch of them on the top and the bottom you have to go for. So you shouldn't have to force anything. Once you've hit all the screws, you should just be able to easily pull that cassette player out the back. The cassette player is attached by 2 wires. There is one 5-pin round DIN connector that connects into the radio, and it's a beige wire. You just unplug that, and then there is a blue wire that comes out that connects to the car, and those are the only 2 wires you have to deal with for the cassette player. If you're doing the whole radio, there's some other wire harnesses. It's pretty easy to just disconnect those. And then there are 3, if you're pulling this entire piece of trim out because you want to refinish it, which I did previously, there are 3 wires that connect in to the back of the cigarette lighter, and just keep track of where they go. They're all just plug and play. You don't have to do any soldering or stripping or anything like that. Just keep track of where they came from. You can just put them back in the same place. One thing to caution you also is that there is a black wire that is the antenna that disconnects, and the antenna wire, just be careful, because there have been plenty of cases where after disconnecting the antenna wire and reseating it, people lose FM reception because maybe it's just like a little bit of a fishy connection. But so just be careful with that, and you should be good to go. So there we have it. Removing the head unit, putting it all back in is pretty simple. Just slide it back in and do everything in reverse.